The summer of 1944 was a turning point in the Second World War. Allied forces had landed in Normandy, and the beaches were still scarred with craters and debris. The German army, though battered, had entrenched positions and deadly artillery. Among the Allied commanders, General Harold Thompson knew that success depended not only on brute force, but on ingenuity and precise coordination. Meanwhile, deep in the forests of northern France, a reconnaissance unit reported the unusual movement of German Panther tanks along a secondary road that had been assumed safe. Thompson realized that this could be a trap designed to funnel Allied armor into a killing zone. In response, he ordered a rapid deployment of Sherman tanks, emphasizing speed and flanking maneuvers. The tank crews, many barely out of training, felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Private James Miller, sitting in the turret of his Sherman, checked the ammunition and watched the horizon through the periscope. The ground trembled as a distant explosion rocked the nearby forest, sending a flock of birds into the sky. The tanks advanced slowly through muddy terrain, each commander aware that a single miscalculation could cost dozens of lives. Simultaneously, Allied fighter planes patrolled the skies, scanning for Luftwaffe fighters that might threaten the advance. In a nearby village, civilians huddled in basements as the sounds of battle approached, unaware that their home would soon be a key point in the unfolding conflict. Back at headquarters, Thompson reviewed aerial photographs that showed the positions of German bunkers and artillery emplacements. Calculating the odds, he decided to split his forces, sending one group to engage directly, while another circled around the left flank. The German commanders, caught off guard by the unexpected maneuver, hesitated, giving the Allies a slight advantage. As the Sherman tanks reached the edge of the forest, the first shots rang out. The thundering sound of tank cannons echoed across the valley, punctuated by the high-pitched whine of incoming shells. One Sherman was hit, its treads torn apart, and the crew scrambled to escape the wreckage. Private Miller, seeing the destruction, felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with terror. Despite the losses, the Allied advance continued. Engineers quickly laid makeshift bridges across craters, allowing tanks and infantry to maintain momentum. Artillery from the rear provided suppressing fire, neutralizing German positions that could have stalled the attack. In the air, fighter planes strafed. Photographs that showed the positions of German bunkers and artillery emplacements. Calculating the odds, he decided to split his forces, sending one group to engage directly, while another circled around the left flank. The German commanders, caught off guard by the unexpected maneuver, hesitated, giving the Allies a slight advantage. As the Sherman tanks reached the edge of the forest, the first shots rang out. The thundering sound of tank cannons echoed across the valley, punctuated by the high-pitched whine of incoming shells. One Sherman was hit, its treads torn apart, and the crew scrambled to escape the wreckage. Private Miller, seeing the destruction, felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with terror. Despite the losses, the Allied advance continued. Engineers quickly laid makeshift bridges across craters, allowing tanks and infantry to maintain momentum. Artillery from the rear provided suppressing fire, neutralizing German positions that could have stalled the attack. In the air, fighter planes strafed supply lines, cutting off reinforcements and creating chaos among German troops. By midday, the flanking maneuver had succeeded. German tanks were isolated and targeted from multiple directions. The combined firepower of the Shermans and supporting infantry overwhelmed the defenders, forcing a retreat. The villagers cautiously emerged, witnessing the aftermath, the burned-out wreckage, and the eerie silence that followed the fighting. Thompson and his officers surveyed the battlefield, noting both the human cost and the strategic victory. Reports would later describe this engagement as a textbook example of combined arms tactics. Yet, the personal stories of bravery and loss remained largely untold. Soldiers like Private Miller would carry memories of the chaos, the fear, and the camaraderie forged in fire. Every shell fired, every maneuver executed, became part of the intricate tapestry of war, a reminder of the fine line between victory and disaster. The Normandy campaign continued, with each day bringing new challenges, new heroism, and new tragedies that would shape the course of the war. Intelligence officers scoured the countryside for intercepted communications, hoping to anticipate the enemy's next move. Meanwhile, supply lines were stretched thin, requiring improvisation to maintain the flow of fuel, ammunition, and food. The coordination between ground forces and air support became ever more critical, as any lapse could result in catastrophic losses. Amidst this, stories emerged of individual heroism, such as a radio operator who ran through enemy fire to deliver vital messages, or a medic who saved lives under constant bombardment. These small acts, though overshadowed by the grand movements of armies, were integral to the Allied success. By evening, the smoke began to clear, revealing the scars of battle and the resilience of those who had survived. Thompson's decisions that day would be studied for years to come, demonstrating the importance of foresight, adaptability, and courage under pressure. The battle, though just one of many in the campaign, encapsulated the intensity, unpredictability, and human drama of World War II. Night fell over the battlefield, casting long shadows across the cratered fields. The remnants of the German armored division were scattered, trying to regroup under the cover of darkness. Fires burned in small clusters, illuminating the ruined landscape and highlighting the devastation wrought by the relentless advance of the Allies. Private Miller, exhausted yet vigilant, checked his tank for damage, ensuring that the remaining ammunition was secure. Around him, the air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of gunpowder, mingled with the metallic scent of shattered machinery. Communications crackled through the radio, relaying updates from infantry units and reconnaissance scouts. Thompson's staff meticulously plotted the next moves, aware that the Germans would attempt a counterattack under the cover of darkness. Meanwhile, in the skies, Allied night fighters patrolled, their searchlights cutting through the darkness, revealing lurking enemy movements. Bombers on standby prepared for pre-dawn strikes, ready to support the advancing tanks at first light. The coordination between air and ground units was critical. One misstep could turn the tide and result in heavy casualties. In a nearby woodland, a small team of engineers worked tirelessly to clear debris and repair damaged roads, allowing supply trucks to continue delivering fuel and ammunition to the front lines. Soldiers moved cautiously, knowing that mines and booby traps were hidden among the rubble. Amidst this chaos, individual acts of courage shone through. Corporal Henderson, seeing a fellow soldier trapped under debris, risked his own life to pull him to safety. Sergeant Thompson, not related to the general, but sharing the same sense of urgency, organized a defensive perimeter around a captured German bunker, repurposing its machine guns to protect the supply lines. The villagers, still terrified, whispered stories of the day's events, sharing tales of miraculous escapes and heroic deeds as they cautiously emerged from hiding. At dawn, the battlefield transformed once again. The morning sun reflected off the twisted metal of destroyed tanks, casting gleaming highlights against the mud-streaked terrain. Thompson surveyed the scene from a vantage point, observing how each maneuver of his forces had converged to create a tactical advantage. German reinforcements were spotted in the distance, moving cautiously through the shattered roads, unaware that flanking Allied units were closing in. The tension was palpable, and every soldier understood that the coming hours would determine whether the hard-won gains would be held or lost. The next engagement began with artillery barrages that shook the earth and sent plumes of smoke into the sky. Shermans advanced in formation, their cannons firing in unison to suppress enemy positions. The Germans, though experienced, were increasingly disoriented by the precise coordination and overwhelming numbers of the Allied units. Private Miller's tank took several near misses, the armor groaning under the force of enemy shells. Yet the crew pressed forward, driven by determination and the desire to survive. Observing from the air, Allied reconnaissance reported the rapid collapse of enemy positions, confirming that Thompson's strategies were achieving their intended effect. As the day progressed, the Allies secured key positions, capturing enemy officers and salvaging critical equipment. Field medics moved quickly to tend the wounded, setting up triage points near makeshift command posts. The interplay between logistics, communication, and frontline bravery highlighted the complexity and intensity of modern warfare. Even as victories accumulated, the cost was evident. Lives lost, towns destroyed, and families displaced. Yet, amidst the tragedy, lessons were learned, strategies refined, and courage tested. Each soldier, each tank crew, and each commander contributed to the unfolding story of a campaign that would ultimately shape the course of the war. By nightfall, the battlefield was quiet, but far from safe. The echoes of gunfire had faded, replaced by the distant sounds of movement and the low hum of engines preparing for the next day's operations. Thompson and his officers reviewed maps and intelligence reports, planning their next moves while considering the human toll of continued conflict. The soldiers, weary yet resolute, found brief moments of rest, reflecting on the bonds forged under fire and the reality of a war that demanded resilience, ingenuity, and unwavering courage.